In the last few lectures, we have worked on different CRUD operations. So we have created a walk and retrieved the results back. Now it is time for the last two operations, which is updation and deletion. So let's start with the update first. I want to create a comment first that this is the update walk by ID. After that, I will have the HTTP verb, which is put, and the API URL will be /API/walks, and then I also need the ID of the walk we are updating, so the ID. Now we can proceed with the structure of this. So public async task of type iActionResult update, and we will annotate this method with the HTTP put keyword, and we'll also have a route similar to how we have in the get by ID. So I can copy this and paste it over here. So we have a route which accepts a ID parameter from the route. So from route, we are expecting a type of GUID, and the name of this parameter is ID, and make sure this matches over here. Along with the ID parameter, we are also expecting a walk to be updated. So we need a request object over here, similar to how we have the add walk request DTO. So in the models folder under the DTOs, I will create a new class, and I will call this update walk request DTO.cs and press enter. After that, we need all those properties that we want to update. So if we look at the walk domain model again, we cannot update the ID because that's a unique identifier. So that will not be present in the DTO. We can update the name, description, length, walk image, the difficulty ID, and the region as well. So let's say we have set up a walk incorrectly, or later on the regions have changed and now this walk belongs in a different region. Maybe that's the reason that the region ID is changing, and also the difficulty has changed because something has gone wrong, or now we have assessed the walk again and the difficulty has changed. So all this information can be changed as per our business application. So I will copy all of this and paste it inside the update walk request DTO, and we will get the information for these results of the walk that we are trying to change. So I can now use this request DTO inside the controller. So I will paste it over here and give it a name. The first thing we have to do is to map this DTO into a domain model. So let's map DTO to domain model, and we don't have the profile for doing that. So let's create an AUTOMAPPER mapping. So inside the mappings folder, I will open the AUTOMAPPER profiles and create a new map between the update walk request DTO and the walk domain model, and also a reverse map for it. Now I can close this and create a mapping. So I can say variable, this is the walk domain model is equal to mapper.map, and map it to a walk domain model from a DTO, which is the request DTO. So now we have the domain model. We can now use the repository method, which we will create in just a moment, to update this walk. So now we can open the repository, which is the iWalk repository, and create an update method definition. So that will be update async, and this will take the GUID, which is the ID, and also the walk domain model, which is just walk. As a return type, it will give a task of type walk, which could be null because we are checking if the walk is present based on the ID. Now the definition is ready. We want to create the implementation in the SQL walk repository. So let's come over here and let's create a new implementation. So I will control dot on this and implement the interface. First of all, we will make this method asynchronous and remove this line. We will first check the database if this walk was existing or not using the ID. So we can say variable existing walk is equal to, we will use the DB context, so await DB context dot walk dot first or default async method x such that x dot id is equal to id, and then we'll say if existing walk is null, then return a null back, and otherwise we want to update this. So we can say existing walk dot, we want to update the code. Walk doesn't have a code, so existing walk dot name is equal to walk dot name, and similarly we will have the description and update it from what we are getting from the method. Then we also want to update the length in kilometers. After that, we will update the region ID. We have the image URL, so the image URL. After that, we have the difficulty ID. And finally, we want to update the region ID as well. So we have all this information updated for this existing walk. We now have to use the DB context again to save the changes. So we will say await DB context dot save changes async. And with that, we will update the existing walk, and now we can return the existing walk back. So now the implementation is complete. We can now use this method inside the walks controller from the walk repository. So we can say await walk repository is equal to, dot update async, and provide the ID that we have and the domain model that we just mapped from the DTO. And we can get the response back in the same domain model. So this is equal to, now we have to convert this back, and we will first check if this domain model was null. So if this domain model is equal to null, then we return a not found back. Otherwise, we want to map domain model to DTO and return an OK response back. So we can use the AUTOMAPPER. So I will say mapper.map and map this into the walk DTO from the walk domain model. And we do have this mapping already in the AUTOMAPPER profiles. So we have the mapping between a walk DTO and the walk, and we also have a reverse map. So this should be okay. So now our controller method is complete for the update. We can now test this. So run this application. Swagger is running, and we will come to the walks endpoint and we will test the update, which is the put method. So if I expand on that, it needs the ID and it needs a body as well. So let's get the ID for the walk that we have from the database. So I will come on the database, have the ID over here, and this is the walk that we want to update. Now we have to provide all the details of these properties in these properties that we want to update. So the name is at the moment Mount Victoria Lookout Walk. If we want to change this, we want to send a different value. So let's say updated. If we don't want to change it, we still have to send the original value back. So let's say we want to change it, and I'll say this is the updated name. The description, let's copy it from that. So this was the original description. If I want to change it, I can change it by changing this description. After that, the length was 5. So let's change the length to 6. the walk image was null, so let's keep it like that. Let's keep the walk image as null. Now the difficulty ID was at the moment this, so let's just put the existing values first, and the region was Wellington. So this is the ID for the region Wellington, and this is the difficulty ID for the difficulty easy. But now I want to make this walk a difficulty of medium and in the Auckland region. So I will change these IDs over here. So let's get the IDs for the Auckland region and paste it over here. And then the ID for the medium difficulty and paste it in the difficulty ID property. So now we have an updated request that we can give to the API so that we can update. So let's execute this, and we have the result back. We have a 200 response back with the changed thing. So we have the updated name and the updated description, including the length. Now to check the region and difficulty, we can go back to the API and execute this. So we have the region ID over here, which matches the Auckland region ID. It ends with 7F6, and also the difficulty ID, if I paste it over here, ends with F8C, which is the medium difficulty ID. So that means our updation has also our API updated the walk successfully, and we are able to see that on screen as well. So in the next lecture, we are left with the last part of the CRUD operation, which is the delete. So let's come back in the next lecture and do delete for the walks.